That's wrong button.
Step into Epic Sage is where your journey begins. Our shelves are stacked high where the magic never ends. From dice that roll true to tomes ancient and wise, we've got all the essentials for your game to arise. With adventure in mind, we craft every piece to make your campaigns flourish, your stories increase. For every TTRPG dream, our stock is refined. Come find your next quest, leave the mundane behind. Epic Stages, where you find satisfaction. We bring the spark, you bring the passion. We control the board, you control the action. Epic Stages, where legends find traction. Our online store's a wonderland, easy to explore, with service that shines whether in person or more. Need advice on your journey? We're here to assist. For novice and veteran, no wish will be missed. We've got what you need from the basic to the grand, to bring your world to life with a masterful hand. From maps that expand to characters that bind, Epic Sages, always with adventure in mind. Epic Stages is where you find satisfaction. We bring the spark, you bring the passion. We control the board, you control the action. Epic Stages, where legends find traction. Elevate your game with custom pieces so fine, handcrafted with care, designed to make you shine. From miniature heroes to landscapes vast, we build every detail to make the magic last. When the final dice is rolled and the journey is done, we offer keepsakes that remind me of the battles you won. In every treasure we offer, memories are signed. Epic Sages, always with adventure in mind. Epic Stages is where you find satisfaction. We bring the spark, you bring the passion. We control the board, you control the action. Epic Stages, where legends find traction. Epic Stages is where you find satisfaction. We bring the spark, you bring the passion. We control the board, you control the action. Epic Stages, where legends find traction.
You are muted, Roger.
Man, thank you for that because I was going. We're having the tech issues today. Starting season 5 off great. I love that. Welcome to episode 1, season 5 of the TTRPG Classrooms. We are joined by some fantastic guests. Our topic tonight is poison versus venom, the power of words. So we're going to be talking about how important how you say things and what you say and what they mean dictate what goes through stuff and things. First, we're going to start off by introducing everybody, give them their time to tell you who they are, what they do, all that fun stuff. We're going to start with Sasha. Sasha, go ahead and lead the pack. Who are you? What you do? Where can people find you? All that fun stuff.
I am Sasha, the Chief Chaos ED of I Too Am a Test Kitchen. That is the whole name. The only way to shorten it is I, the number 2 TK. Otherwise, you gotta say the whole thing like a pimp named Slickback. I am on where? Facebook, TikTok. I'm trying to do YouTube, but just pray. And that's about it. I usually help people with transitioning to kind of restrictive food stuff, restrictive diets, FODMAP, autoimmune protocol, stuff like that, one-on-one, and it's always very chaotic, but it works out.
We got one of our community members wants to hang out with us too. Sweet. Jonathan, are you still there? You're a spitting ball of death on my end. Can you hear us?
Still here.
Okay, fantastic. Well, feel free to introduce yourself and say hello, and we'll get your face on screen eventually. I might have to kick you out and have you come back, but we'll get your intro in first.
Fingers crossed that works. Yeah, Jonathan Marion, transformational life coach, consultant, and speaker on Facebook, Insta, LinkedIn, but also stepsalongtheway.global, and formerly a cultural anthropology professor for over 20 years.
Heck yeah. Last but not least, or vice versa, or Emily.
I'm Emily Vernon. I am the founder of Vice Versa Strategy, which is a digital marketing agency focused on website design as well as email marketing. And you can find me on Instagram / vice versa. And then you can also find me on LinkedIn, and it's vice versa on LinkedIn as well.
Fantastic. And then one of our community members hanging out with us. I'm not going to give you introduction time, but I just want to say hello. Good to see you again, friend. How you been?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me here. Had no idea what was going on, but they closed the restaurant today because it snowed so much. I was like, hey, let's hop on because I didn't want to sit here.
Fantastic. Love that. All right. So, and then obviously we have Younger hiding in the corner because that's what he do. Younger, are you alive on there?
I am alive. I am here and ready to converse.
All right.
My for some reason my camera thing's acting wonky, so I'm
all right.
not gonna
Well,
use it.
today's a day. We'll blame the fires in LA or something like that. It's messing with everyone's internet. But let's get into the topic. So, poison versus venom. As I like to start with most sessions, when I say the title, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? We're gonna start with our spending ball of death, Jonathan.
Well, the very first thing that comes to mind are the Spider-Man universe movies, Venom, and where does that go? But then the second thought comes from my former academic background, and it's if you take the word bias, no one wants to be biased, but if you say everyone has a perspective, it's a different take on it. But that's where I start.
Interesting. Okay. Sasha, what about you? When we talk about poison versus venom, what's the first thing that pops into your head?
Affect versus effect. One is done to you and one you do to yourself, kind of.
Okay, interesting. Okay, we'll get back to that because that's a great way to think about it. Emily, what about you? When we say the title, poison versus venom, what do you think?
It's not what you say, it's how you say it. I'm thinking it's something to do with how you use your words.
Interesting. Okay, all right. And Younger, what's the technical answer down there?
I think in the literal sense of like perhaps a venomous snake's venom might not be poisonous to ingest, but if you get bit by it, it can still be toxic to you.
Ah, the technicality. Perfect. Jesse, what about you? You got anything extra to add on this one?
I'm with the other guy there. First thing I thought about was Spider-Man, Venom, the whole thing too. But the more you all explain about what you're saying, I think it more pertains to the context that we take whatever is said to us and how we define it in our heads to whether it's a good thing or bad thing, if it's constructive, not constructive. It just depends on the person that's actually listening and how we handle it.
Fantastic. Okay. So, when we talk about people and things, right? Do we generally, or do you generally, I'm going to ask you all kind of individually, feel free to answer. Do you generally refer to people as venomous or poisonous? What kind of connotations do they have when you apply those words to people? Nothing? All right. Jonathan, you got anything? Okay. Go ahead, Sasha.
I got that for you.
Oh, I was thinking toxic people, but I don't think of venomous or poisonous when I think of people. I think of toxic people.
Okay.
And I don't know if that would be. It's just like a vibe or an aura. Like they bring down the joy in an area. Not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jesse, you look like
That
you had
was
something.
the first.
Sorry, Jonathan. Yes, you, sir. Pointing at your face.
Okay. There's a bunch of things going on there. No, I think if I talk about people or think about people, I would probably say poisonous more than the venomous because poisonous is probably more well known than venomous. If somebody said venomous, I'd be like, what? But if somebody said poisonous, I'd be like, oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense. So when I think about people in general, I would think poisonous.
Interesting. Okay. Jonathan, to you, sir.
Yeah, the same as Sasha, the toxic is what popped into my brain. But at the same time, as I'm thinking about it now, I would use poisonous because of those terms, because it's the effect it's having on me. It's, someone could be venomous, but again, if it doesn't affect me, that's not so relevant. Whereas poisonous to me or poisonous to someone else I know, that seems more applicable. But toxic is what came to mind.
It's funny you bring that up because on my mind of things, if I call someone poisonous, it is someone affecting me. Where if I call someone venomous, it's usually a friend, and they're being venomous to someone else, right? There, it's someone that is attacking, or at least in my thought. Emily, what about you?
I think I'm agreeing with Sasha on I would probably use the word toxic to describe a person, but I think I'm aligned with everyone on poison would probably be the first one. If I had to use one of them, I definitely wouldn't use venomous.
Interesting. Okay, Younger, you have a preference?
Poisonous for some reason, it just hits harder and it just sounds like more permanent for some reason. I don't know why.
So if I was going to use it in relation to somebody speaking to somebody else, or just like in general, I think toxic is a pretty well covered term for that, because it covers both venom and poison. However, for venom, the way that it works, like in reality, is it has to be something that's like injected. It's like a directed attack. It's like this is attacking the individual. I would consider something like that as a venomous ordeal, whereas poisonous, if you have a poisonous substance, that could be a contact poison where you're just around it. That could be something that you inhaled, or like the energy that's around, more or less. Things of that nature. There's much more types of, and there's even poisons that are injectable as well. And so I would say that like when somebody like poisons the mind of a crowd, or like poisons the idea, just like sets like a bad tone for it. I would say poison would be the more term I would use for something that is able to be spread amongst multiple people as opposed to like individual targeted attacks. Like this poison could spread from one person and then go to another person, whereas like if a snake bites you, you can't bite somebody and then give them that same venom, right?
Yeah,
Gotcha. So
we don't know what the future holds.
It's kind of interesting. You guys talked about auras earlier, right? And the vibe. Whereas when something's venomous, it's an active thing. You have to activate venom, right? Whereas poison, you can just it's a passive. It's just there. It just spreads. Now to kind of detach from the main words of the title here, I'm gonna kind of talk to you guys individually on this one. Do you guys have any words that are kind of like that, where like they're really close in definition, but it really matters which words you use when you're explaining it to people? We'll start with Emily on this one.
It's a tough one. Words that are I'm gonna have to pass on this one because I
Okay,
really can't even think of
we'll
an
give you a couple
example.
seconds.
Yeah.
Younger, you got one?
Not off the top of my head, believe it or not.
What? Wild. All right, Jonathan. Yeah, or keep drawing blanks, so someone's got something. Wahaha.
Yeah. Well, it is the one I already mentioned, but again, everyone has a perspective on a variety of things. And it is a bias in the technical sense of it, but because of the connotations of bias, no one wants to be called bias. If someone tells me I have a bias, I don't like it.
Okay.
And I think it's really different from just recognizing it is a perspective.
Okay, interesting. Okay. I mean, that's a good way to look at those for sure. Jesse, what about you? Do you think of one?
So it really depends on a couple of things. You could say the same word to three different people and they're interpolated in different ways.
Okay.
So it's really hard to say this way is going to be for this person the same for everybody when it's really not that way. It's going to be just different for different people. So I mean, I could say the same sentence and it's going to be different. It just depends on how, where I enunciate specific vowels and consonants and the meaning behind what I actually say. So, I mean, it's really hard to pinpoint exactly what word it would be because it could be many words. It's just how we say them and then how we hope we come across to the person we're talking to.
Okay, interesting.
Can I piggyback off that?
100%.
Kind of reminds me of I remember hearing at one point, especially like when I was like in German class, that the word bridge is a masculine word in German, and like words that would be used to describe a bridge would be like strong and durable, and things of that nature. But like in French, it would be a more it's a feminine word, and it's more describing of the elegance of the architecture, so on and so forth. And so I know that's not a separate word, but like just kind of piggyback off what he said, where it's like, oh, it can be the same thing, but even have that drastic of a difference for the storytelling perspective, or the in the mind reception.
Gotcha. So where you say the words matter, right? An interesting concept. We'll piggyback on that one later. Do you guys think of anything else before I kind of jump into the next silliness with it?
Yeah, the other thing that came to my mind was even a single word, intention. So it's one thing if I have an intention for myself and how I'm going to interact or show up, but the minute that I have an intention for how someone else is going to respond or how I'm trying to get them to, I'm in the sphere of actually manipulating them, because I'm trying to get a specific outcome, which is different than a specific intention for myself.
But I'm going to argue with you on that one, to be honest, because if you have an intention for yourself, it's a self manipulation, right? You are doing what you can to achieve a goal. You're just doing it to yourself. But I see where your head's at. Let's see here. Next thing, using the same word with slightly different connotations. My favorite example is the word shit. I know it's a tad inappropriate for the people listening, but the difference between horse shit and bullshit can kind of be dog shit at times. And sometimes you think about these words and it makes you a little batshit. Those kind of things. Slight modifiers on the same word make it totally different, right? Go from quality to sanity to whatever, right? So jumping into what you guys talk about, what your expertise is there something that you like to use that kind of you can use that keyword and just change one little thing, and it mean totally something different for you?
I think the word itself is kind of bringing me to like I don't even want to say the word. I'm such a goody two shoes.
Sorry, Jesse.
I don't even want to say the word.
That's fair. That's fair.
But yeah.
For me, I think I try to use language that is that makes space. For instance, I say that we are working to nourish and support our bodies.
Okay.
Rather than some of the other language that I see used often, like, oh, you wanna do this to burn fat or da da da, that type of stuff, because it's like that was never one of my goals, and I don't ever want to make it anyone else's goal. So I always try to use language that offers expansiveness and space within, because I don't want people to feel more shame. A lot of people feel a lot of shame around food, and it's really ridiculous. It's just supposed to be there to give you calories so that you can live, not shouldn't have any feelings attached to it, but we live in the US, so it does.
That's a fair point. So I mean, kind of continue off that and bounce off that topic a little bit. Where do you find like is a key point when you were speaking? What is that line that you draw between it being a positive word or an open word to use comparatively to a hard no for you?
I usually feel it like in my body.
Okay.
Like as the word comes up, I'm like, ugh, I don't want to. Yeah, not that one. And I like sometimes I physically recoil because I don't want to say that. No.
Gotcha. Are you one of those people that doesn't like the word moist?
No, I don't care about moist.
Okay.
I say moist a lot. I use it often because it freaks other people out. But
Okay.
but those types of things, that stuff doesn't bother me. But I was watching a recipe the other day, and this guy goes, "You can peel your carrots if you're a pansy," or something like that. And I was like, "What? I don't even want to know what the recipe is anymore. You can take a long walk off a short pier. I never want to know what you have to cook." Because that is just so. I don't even know you. This is my first time meeting you, and you're like, if you peel your carrots, you're a pansy. Bye. Also, with fitfluencers that unbig your back, big back this, big back that, and I'm like, I don't, I don't want to ever see that type of language. It just feels it feels very shamey. And I don't think there's reasons to heap on more shame when there's enough of it already. People already feel enough shame. So when I feel like it can cause or make someone feel shame or make you feel shrinky, smaller, I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that.
Interesting. Okay, I gotcha. You know, I definitely understand the you say something and get a recourse from it afterwards. Like, I should have said that's not a word I like to use. Yeah, I feel that wholeheartedly. I catch myself with that too often, unfortunately. Emily, jumping down to you because social media was brought up, and that's one of your talking points. One of our things that we get told all the time is negativity builds engagement, right? How do you focus around that with your stuff?
I think that's kind of like a PR tactic that some people use. Like any news, whether it's positive or negative, is like news. At least you're being talked about. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think something negative could definitely like scar your brand for life. So that's definitely not a route that I would recommend anyone going on. Um, especially the type of clients that I have, I think they're very community oriented. Most of them are LA based, so they've built like this community. So you kind of want to speak to your audience in a very positive light, talk to them like they're a part of your world, like they're part of your community. So I'd never really recommend the negative press going in that direction.
Interesting. Okay, that
Although there's ways to spin it. If something comes out, there's ways to spin it, but definitely don't recommend that.
spending words. We'll get to that in a minute. Hey, Jonathan, just as a side note, can you try turning your camera on and off again? See if that fixes the spinning orbs of death over there. I don't know why it's being
Sure,
a
will
butt.
do.
Hey, look, there's his face. Yeah, there. Oh, maybe we'll see. Speaking of Jonathan, when you're doing your stuff, how do you
Yep.
focus your negativity and positivity into the words you use, especially when you're like teaching others or lecturing others, in the stuff that you're doing currently?
Yeah, I think the example that comes to mind quickest is what I'm doing right now, is how many times people think or say should, whether it's about my boss should have recognized my work, my coworker should have done their fair share, my kids should have listened to me, I should have, gone to the gym. And should is fighting with what is. And so I really encourage people to keep track of all the shoulds. Just write it down through the day. You'll notice patterns over time, but then cross it out at night and rewrite it with could have been recognized, could have listened to me, I could have done this. And I think that really goes back to a point that Sasha was making of it's opening up possibilities as opposed to, getting stuck in a rigid mindset that we've internalized from society, from peers, from family, that there's only one way to do things or that somehow the way we are doing it is wrong.
Okay, I like that. I like that a lot, actually. Um,
Absolutely, and it removes the pressure too. I agree with that.
right.
That also reminds
Go ahead. Go ahead.
that also reminds me of a quick thing too, is where when you say have to, instead of saying have to, you change the wording to I get to go to work, I get to spend time with my kids. It's just changing a couple of words can make something so much more positive.
Or on the opposite, so much more negative, right? It's good to throw in the positives in there, but talking about poison versus venom, you end up poisoning yourself with what you say more often than not, unfortunately, right? With how you speak to yourself. Generally, you're not venomous to yourself. You're not intentionally being mean, but there's a lot of stuff where you can say or think and do, and just it goes the wrong way, right? We like to say that you speak things into existence. The words that you say mean something, right? Whether it's a technical meaning, like the definition between a poison and a venom, they're both toxins, but how they apply to you are totally different things. Is in how you self-talk and things like that. When we go to our TTRPG stuff, right, and you're playing with your friends and you're enjoying adventures, allowing the and but or no but strategy to whether they fail or pass or things like that can be immensely powerful for while you're playing these games, right? Sometimes it really sucks to roll a 4 on a roll and have a total of like 6, right, and not pass the thing, right? So you fail, but something else happens, right? Giving an opportunity, opening up the possibility for more stuff. Now you can't do that all the time, because sometimes you just gotta fail and fail because you need to learn how to fail. But opening it up when you can, especially as someone who's running the game, uh, it helps people kind of go through those things, right? So speaking of the opening things up, how do you guys, besides in your words, how do you guys physically open adventures up to people? So I'm going to start with Younger. Younger, how do you make things more open for your players?
Within the game or just between the players?
I would say we'll focus with in between the players with you because I kind of talked about the other silliness.
Okay, so the way that I try to make it as open as possible between the players is I'll have one-on-one conversations with them. Be like, hey, like tell me what it is that makes you comfortable with this scenario, like of what we're gonna be within the game, like what's the okays, what's the not okays, so on and so forth. And then whenever we begin our first session, be like, hey, set down some basic ground rules. Here's like basic regular courtesies, but so and so doesn't, or one of our players doesn't want to talk about this or have this involved, so we're not going to have that while in this. So on and so forth. Things of that nature.
Right. So talking about our session zeros, constantly checking for that kind of stuff, and setting expectations. We talk about this nearly every episode, right? One of the most important and powerful things you can do with your words is set expectations ahead of time, so people know what you want of them, what you want for them, all that fun stuff. And I think for any of our businesses and what we're trying to do, setting expectations with our customers and who we're talking to and what could be achieved, we're going to use that word, versus what should be achieved, what has to be achieved, all that fun stuff. So kind of on that basis, I'm gonna shift frames here. Sorry, Younger. Um, into how do you guys set those expectations for your clients and people when you're talking to your people? How do you set your expectations? What words do you use to kind of make sure they
I like to
understand it?
call it managing expectations, and I
Okay.
think a lot of it comes from communication. I think being candid and honest, since I am a one-woman show, I'm going to be very honest about timelines and how long it takes me to do things and, manage expectations in that way. I think just clearly communicating. I did notice something. I'm like, every single movie that I watch, doesn't matter the genre, scary movie, funny movie, there's always a common premise in everything. It's that somebody in the movie didn't communicate with somebody else. So in the scary movie, it's like, if you would have told your husband that you saw the ghost in scene 1, this wouldn't even be a movie. So I think just open communication could definitely work through a lot of kinks and manage and set expectations overall.
Gotcha. Sasha, what about you?
Ooh. Well, so the main thing that I do with my clients is called Build Your Own Cookbook, and I ask them up front, like, what are your energy levels? Like, what's going to be easy? Is this easy for you? Is this hard? Because I set the cookbook up in 5 different zones. Very easy, medium, hard, very hard. And if they are, because usually they have an autoimmune disease. So if they're like, I'm like, what would be easy for you while you're in a flare? Right? Are you able to use your stove? And they're like, yeah, no, I need a microwave. And I'm like, okay, so that's where I go. I find things that we can put in the microwave, things that then I, give them other things that would be more difficult, but those are for when they feel better, like further down the line. When they're not in the flare, they feel good. So, and also I let them know that, or I give them resources, places where they can find really good recipes that I trust, because the food blogging space is very it's wild west. They be putting up anything.
So you're not sending them to the pansy carrot peeler. Got it.
Right. But I mean, I have these places that I trust, and I also have places that have good base recipes, but I'm like, girl, don't trust those seasonings. You're gonna have to put more than that. But I communicate that, and because most of my clients are people follow me on Facebook, so they already know, like, how I am as a person, and they know what to expect of me. And I am who I am everywhere.
You know, Emily kind of talked about being upfront and honest. The communication part of that is probably the easiest way to get the point across and make sure those expectations are met. Because if you're honest from the start, they knew what's up. You know what I mean? They're going to accept the risk or the casualties from there on out, which is great for business people, right? If we can communicate that effectively, it's great. Jonathan, what about you?
Yeah, I agree with Emily wholeheartedly that it comes down to expectation management. And so, especially with life coaching, I can't guarantee any given outcome. And it's really ludicrous, and I wouldn't trust anyone who did. What I can guarantee is the type of support that's going to be provided and the opportunities for growth that will be available. But it's up to everyone, what they do with it. And also, since it's their life, they're the expert. I'm not right. I don't know what the end goal is. My job is to be a support and facilitate their goals and helping them figure out their best way forward towards that.
Okay, nice. I'm just gonna steal that soundbite and just apply it to all my future customers because that was every time their choices are you guys might have saw on the server earlier today. Someone was like, "Well, what if we do this thing in the game we're playing?" Look, you make the choices. I just dish out the consequences. That's going on the website somewhere, I think. But what about you, Jesse? When you're working with your clients, because you're also a man of the people.
I'm an entrepreneur coach as well too, on top of everything else that I do. But a lot of the times, what I do right up front, and I ask them, "What do you want to get out of this? I mean, what is your main goal, and what would you like to have happen?" And then I have to sit and listen carefully, and I got to make sure I can meet those expectations. Because if I can't meet those expectations, I have to tell them up front that hey, I'm not your guy for this, but you can go here if you want to, if I have a way to point at them. But it's all about the communication. It's all about finding up front what you can and can't accomplish, and make sure that the expectations can be met. Because if your expectations can't be met with this client, it could really lead you down a dark path.
Oh, yeah, I'm all on that. Now, kind of on that note, I'm going to ask a personal story of each of you. You guys have any stories where you've taken someone's expectations and reworded them to make them make more sense or to fit your capabilities?
I got one.
Oh, far away, younger.
So I was in the military for a time, and you have soldiers who want to progress within their career field. And with that, some soldiers are not yet at the standard of what they need to be in order to accomplish that. And so they're like, "Oh, well, just I have to complete task A, B, and C." And they're like, "Well, let me go and do task A." And it's like, okay, well, first off, you're not ready for task A for a multitude of reasons. And so we need to build you up to meet that standard. So it's like, if I send you in there right now, you're not only going to fail, you're going to be pushed back 20 yards. So we need to have a plan. We need to have a build up. We need to start here. We need to improve on these things. And then once you meet those smaller goals, which were not directly outlined within the things that you have to accomplish, but that are like side related tasks that still have significant impacts on that. Like for instance, to get promoted, you only need to succeed on your promotion board, not get not have any negative things put against you, and then you have to usually accomplish a school if you're going for a higher level position. And so people will be like, "Well, I passed my board," and it's like, "Okay, you might have passed your board. Okay, you might have went to the school. However, you could improve your physical fitness score because outside of that, there are these side things that will boost your chances of getting promoted. So if you accomplish all the tasks, but you're still going to be at the bottom of the bracket, and they're going to continue to cherry pick from the top of the bracket, then there's no reason for us to be pushing for those things when you should be improving the things at the very bottom that will be able to put you at the top of that bracket before you even get there."
I do not miss that. for the record. So anyone else kind of got a personal story that kind of fits on those lines, where you've met a client and they've had ridiculous expectations, but you're able to talk them into understanding what you actually do and get them going in the right direction?
I mean,
I
I
have
think that's
something.
a lot of my clients
Okay.
because I work in marketing. So I feel like most of them are, they want to go 100 miles per hour, especially a good example is one of the services that I offer is retention marketing, which is predominantly email and SMS. Most people are like, send to the whole list, send to everyone, send every day. And there's so much criteria that has changed, especially this year. Google has changed their requirements. So if you send to your whole list continuously, you're going to lose your list. You're going to end up in spam. If you send every day, if you send too many sales oriented emails, your subject lines, there's so many different things that factor into your sender score that could affect you going into spam. So I have so many clients that I've noticed that that's what their tactic was in the past. And I'm like, hey, you know that a lot of your customers aren't getting your emails because you're sending to everybody, and that's an issue. So I've definitely had to talk them off the ledge and let them know, hey, here's what's realistic. I'm going to start segmenting. You're going to notice that the open rates are going to go up from these segments because these are highly engaged audiences. You have to focus on people that are just opening your emails and have that conversation with them, because with marketing, it's always like, let's make as much money as we can. Let's send to everybody. And it's just not realistic.
Solid.
That's going into that whole communication from the very beginning to set those expectations for those people, because a lot of people will want to get right in there right away and just bulldog everything and go in there 110 miles an
Yep.
hour. But it's up to you as the coach or as whoever you are to these people to slow them down and say, hey, I know I appreciate your tenacity, but take it down a notch and let's do this the right way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's do this the right way. That is probably some of the most powerful words you can tell to someone that has a too high of an expectation.
Mm-hmm.
Because it isn't necessarily blaming them, it is being positive, it is being open. Again, things we've talked about earlier. The power of the words that you're putting into there is putting the correct way to do something in their hands, right? Because you're giving the odds, they can do it the wrong way if they want, but you're giving them the tools to do it the right way, right? We do this a lot with players in our games, right? We politely coax them into the ways they need to go for positive endings for the most part, or funny ones. I don't know about you, but I like the players get messed with from time to time because it makes me giggle. But that's D&D, not serious stuff 99% of the time. So kind of on that, Jonathan, did you have any stories you want to share before I move on?
Yeah, a quick one I would throw in is actually, it really is on that theme of recalibrating, because someone, could set out at a certain point when we're beginning, like, say a 6-month coaching engagement. Here's the goal, here's the trajectory, but they can then feel like they're failing or making a misstep, when the fact is life evolves. And so if they need to take a step back, if they want to pivot, like, just really reinforcing and underlining, like, that's perfectly fine. Like, none of this was ever carved in stone. It was just, what was the trajectory that made sense for you at one point may not be the one that makes sense now, and that's perfectly okay.
Nice. That really feeds into something both me and Younger do in our games. It's kind of a company standard. We do Stolen from the Army, an after action review, right? Or an after action report where we go over the good, the bad, the ugly, things we want to change, things we thought were great, all that fun stuff for our sessions. So we have a constant changing trajectory of our expectations. Slash, if we're doing good, they'll tell us, right? There's nothing wrong with the things they're enjoying. We keep on course. We don't add anything super crazy. We let our players enjoy what they're doing, right? Especially for long-term clients, this becomes important because it helps you fine-tune where you're going. For people just playing and having fun, it also is good to know, like, if your players are hitting the right vibes, right? In the TTRPG space, there's a lot of people that are very different in their placement, right? The power of your words are very important in our community. How you say things and what you say to who you say it to, completely different depending on who you're with. and who you're portraying, right? Sometimes you are just, a character you're playing as is funny to one group of people and not funny to another. So being able to talk to people afterwards, like, hey, how did everyone like these things? Was there anything you didn't enjoy, things you did enjoy, yada yada. That way, if you hit one of those icky words that made you kind of shiver after you said it, well, you can talk about it afterwards, right? And that's just from our side of things, right? Going into the next kind of stepping into the direct versus passive stuff that I kind of talked about forever ago. Is there anything in your guys' stuff that is very passive versus direct? Something that like you have to do and be active about versus something you can kind of just let slide and it'll happen naturally. We'll start with Jonathan this time. Wahaha.
Sure. I think the thing that's most important, especially within coaching space, to be active about is really getting the person who you're working with to commit to what's the outcome they want. Because people will start talking about whatever's on their mind, whatever topics at hand, whatever challenge. And that's great. And sometimes you need a little vent for that. But if there isn't but here's what I want to do, or here's what I want to focus on and what I want to get out of this, you can just end up talking for an hour or 2 hours, and it's not necessarily really serving them or propelling them towards something that they have defined as a goal of their own. So I need to be really active and, not just sort of let it evolve without a really clear agreement about what counts as success for them.
Counts as success for them. Solid point. Younger, you look like you had something you had to add there. You're scrubbing your hands together.
I just got a flashback. Just got punched in the face with being in the army. There's goals, but when you're within the army, you have goals both within the army and goals outside of the army, right? You have your life goals, you have your personal goals, you have things that you want to complete, and a lot of people, especially within the army, really struggle with setting goals that are outside of the army's framework. Especially the longer you've been in. If you have somebody who's been in the army for 10 plus years, they probably are like, I got another 10 years in the army, and they don't usually have that next level outlined until they're like at like year 18, year 20, or they're out. And so that can be that's something that has to be almost reinforced by leadership for them to effectively be like, hey, like, you're not just a soldier, you're also a human being. And as a human being, you should have aspirations outside of the army, because sometimes the army can really suck.
It'd be like that. For real. Emily, what about you?
Okay, wait, sorry. One more time with the question.
So we are looking for. Oh, brain fart here. Sorry. Lost it. Younger, help me out. How did I phrase it?
Active versus passive.
Thank you.
Things that you have to be on.
Active versus.
Yes. Thank you. Over here having a brain fart mid sentence.
I think it's really dependent on like, again, with the defining goals, and then also like how are people responding to how the goals are being met. I think sometimes there's certain things that I have to like be passive about and be like, well, they don't really understand how this works, and you know what I mean? And then there's certain times where I have to I think give them my expert opinion and explain to them like, here's XYZ, here's the roadmap for how to get there. And then I think there's certain things that I just have to be passive about, because I also understand that this isn't their wheelhouse and they don't necessarily understand all of the information.
Okay, that's fair. Any specific examples you want to give out, or you're gonna keep the secrets for later? Gotta tease the people.
Specific examples. I don't necessarily have. I think because it kind of, I think of email again, where I think certain things are expecting like instant results, or like just because an email went out doesn't mean people are going to click on it, doesn't mean that there's going to be results. You have to just keep doing it and keep trying again and keep sending to the same audiences, and the results change. And sometimes it's the content. Like, I think people are like, well, why aren't people liking this? Is it the content? Is it the copy? Is it the, and it's an evolving test. You never know what it is. There's no real like concrete answer to that. So I think it's one of those things where I try to explain to people from the beginning, like a lot of this is you're in the testing phase and you're trying to see what type of content and et cetera, like people are going to respond to. So I think it's, just letting them know exactly the path of how things work. Because sometimes something could get put out doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work or convert.
That's why we have A/B testing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
I think all passive expectations had to at one point have been an active expectation, right? So like when we do counseling statements within the Army's framework, you're like, hey, here's the standard that you have to achieve. You had to outline that at one point. And then it like you keep continuity with that. So it's like, hey, here's a template of the things that you are going to have to be responsible for, like on a regular basis, right? And so it's like you now know that this is the baseline standard, and then as time progresses, there are going to be new things that are relevant to your progress, whether that be goal related or army related, so on and so forth, that will need highlighted emphasis. That is a time related schedule. It's like, hey, there's this thing coming up. In order for you to be prepared for it, you're going to have to accomplish this or that, da 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 da. And then each of those things will be active. Some of them might stay on that passive list in the future. Some of those things might just be temporary things that are like, hey, this is the goal, you need to achieve it now, and then we'll move on to the next thing during our next counseling next month.
Sasha, what about you?
By the time someone signs up with me, everything is active.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. The passive part is just I let people know what's available, and by the time they've come, because I don't want to like chase someone down and say, hey, you said you want to feel better in your body. You want to do this now? Do you want to do this? I don't want to do that. That's not me at all. And so by the time that they have signed up and paid for it, then it's like, okay, so here are the things, and we're going to work together 3 times over the course of the next however long. I started at like 90 days, but all of my clients are like neurodivergent, and so I expanded it to a year. We're going to work together 3 times over the next however long it takes, and we'll check in, see how you're feeling, and you find your recipes, you cook your recipes, you eat your recipes, tell me how you like them, type of deal. Everything is active once people sign up. There is no, I guess it's passive for me because I'm not in their house.
Okay, all right.
But yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna go back to our versus comment really quick. We're gonna talk about your favorite and least favorite catchphrases in your business. So, like, what's something? We're gonna start with the negative, right? So we can end on positives. Um, we're gonna. What is the least favorite thing that you get to talk about in your business? We'll start with Jonathan over there.
So I think it falls into 2 camps. One is, again, the idea of should, right? And whether it's, I should be able to blank, or, other people should do blank. Because again, it's just fighting with what is. And so as long as someone's in that mentality, it's all about blame. And fine, even if you assign blame, so what? It doesn't actually create any possibility forward. And I guess on the other side, it's people who are or think of themselves as coaches, but think of themselves as, I'm helping people. Like, then you're not really doing what I think you should as a coach, which is you're supporting them to help themselves. And so you're not doing the work for people. And the more you're active and that you're leading them, you're not actually coaching them anymore.
Interesting. Okay. Sasha, what about you? What's the least favorite thing you like to talk about when you talk to things or people?
I am a Taurus. I don't do anything I don't want to do. There is no least favorite part.
Okay, all right. Fair. Take it. Emily, what about you?
Money. I hate talking about money.
Okay.
Not necessarily just like what the scope of the project is going to be and pricing and things like that. That I have less of an issue with. It's more talking about like revenue and metrics and that sort of thing. I think people are, especially if it's a client that is so focused on money, that's probably not my most ideal client because I think there's so many other factors in what we're doing. We're building brand awareness, we're building community, we're, you know, getting your name, building engagement. There's so many other things that are happening and it can't just be focused on dollar and monetary value, even though I know that's the long-term goal. But I think there's just so many other factors in when you're doing marketing that just the conversation of like money and dollars and revenue and, it's just not something I like to talk about.
Gotcha. Okay. Jesse, what about you?
So I'm actually going to branch off that just a smidge too. A lot of the clients that I have are people that are just getting started in their entrepreneur adventure because that's kind of what I specialize in, to help people get started and across the start line. And more times than not, the first thing they want to talk about is how much money am I going to make? How much money is this going to make
Yeah.
me? And that makes me feel kind of like, okay, what is this person's goal? Is this person's goal really going to help people, or is this just something that they want to do to make money? And if it's just something to do with what that they want to just make money, then I know right away I got to tell them we're not in the right place. This isn't where we need to
Yeah.
be. We have to
Mhm.
serve first. We have to put ourselves out there to help others first, and then the money comes after that as a byproduct of how well we serve other people. That's when the money comes. But until we get to that
Yeah.
point, we have to get ourselves out there first. We have to see who we're going to help first. We're going to see who our avatar is and how we can help them achieve what they need before they can help us achieve what we need.
Fantastic. Younger, what about you? You're muted. You're still muted. You're still muted.
Oh, you missed a great monologue.
You look great.
I said
Great optics. Also, your
I said
mouth is
that,
covered by your name, so sit up a little bit if you're gonna monologue.
perfect. So the thing I hate the most within the business is talking about the new things that could happen before we've maximized the potential of the things that we already currently have.
Okay, that's fair.
I don't want to branch off on too many tree limbs before picking the fruit on the ones that we have.
This is a venomous attack directly at me. He's yelling at me right now. You guys just don't know it.
I didn't yell. No yelling.
On my end of things, right? The thing I least like talking about is having to explain the difference between Magic and D&D, which is a card game versus what we do. And it's not for hate of people or anything like that. It's just annoying that they're so interconnected. But personal gripes aside, let's get into the positive things. Let's talk about your favorite thing you like to say in your business, whether that's a catchphrase or a line that you talk about all the time. What's your most excited? Like you get to say it and you're just hyped. We'll start with Younger this
Go
time.
do that.
Go
That's
do
what I
that.
tell them. Go do that. That's a great idea. Go do that and tell me how that works out, because that's a fantastic idea. I just do it. I don't know. I'm a Nike shoe. What can I say? Just go do it and see what happens. So many people are afraid to take that first step across the start line, which is what I talk about in my podcast. That just go do it. See what happens.
Fantastic. Younger?
The thing that I like the most is expanding, like talking about expanding the things that we already have. So like kind of hitting on the thing I said before, but instead of talking about the things that we don't have, but it's like, oh, how can we make this thing that we already have that much better?
Interesting. Okay, all right. Sasha, what about you?
I like to ask, is this normal or have you normalized it? A lot of people are like, oh, it's every day I have this pain, this ache, this da 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 da, and I just expect to continue to have it. And I'm like, mm, is that true? Is that real? Or is it something that you have allowed yourself, or you just believe that now because it's been there for so long, you think that it's going to be there forever? So I like asking people those types of questions. Seen a lot of aha moments for people with that.
Could be a powerful realization for sure. Jonathan, what about you?
I think my favorite is helping people focus on and manifest how they want to be versus what they want to do. Because we're human beings, not human doings.
Okay, I like that. I like that. Emily.
Much like the amazing Mr. Jesse, a lot of my clients are either just starting out, or small businesses, small to medium size. So I like to tell them, we're still in the testing phases. I feel like I kind of briefly brought this up, but we're testing. So what do you want to try out? What do you want to do? And I feel like that's an exciting place to be in because it allows people to like brainstorm and think more strategically. What's the end goal? What is it that you're looking for? You want to build awareness? Let's try this. And I think that also just leaves a lot of room for, I don't even like to call it error, but just to see what happens. Because if you've been doing things a certain way this whole time and you've been getting the same results, let's try something different. Let's try something new. So I always tell them we're in the testing phases. You cannot mess up in this phase. You're just trying things out and seeing how people interact with it.
Interesting. Okay. I'll keep that in mind for personal self feature. Wah ha 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 ha. Jumping into
Can't mess it up.
Can't mess
You've
it up.
never done it.
I don't know. Anyway, jokes aside, that's a very positive message. Jumping into our last bits though, because we're running out of time here. So I want to get you guys your last minute, who you are, where you're at, all that fun stuff. And we will start at the bottom here. Jesse, I know you weren't a star guest, but we'll give you a couple of seconds. Tell us about your podcast because it's a great podcast and people should know about it.
Yeah, so my podcast is the Undiscovered Entrepreneur Get Across the Start Line. We interview new entrepreneurs that are just getting started in their entrepreneur adventure. We go over the 4 hurdles of what stops us from getting across the start line, which is perfectionism, imposter syndrome, failure, and fear. And we get our experiences of how we start a new business so we could all get together and start something new, start something fresh, and start our entrepreneur adventure. You could reach and all my social medias and everything are at Linktree /DJ Scoob. It's SKOOB, so I don't get in trouble.
Gotta avoid those copyrights. I feel that 100%. Emily, what about you? Tell us about the vice versa.
Vice versa. So I work with predominantly fashion and CPG brands on all things marketing, predominantly building emails, creating email lists, SMS, and then I also work with a lot of small businesses on building their website or improving their website. So if you have a website, it's not performing, I can help you get to where you want to be. I can help you do your redesign. So I actually believe I got my socials wrong in the beginning, which is a little embarrassing. So on Instagram, it's vice versa strategy, not just vice versa. And on LinkedIn, vice versa strategy as well.
Fantastic. Jonathan, what about you?
Yeah, so the easiest way is just Jonathan Marion, MARION.com. And it's an overview of my coaching and consulting website, my speaking website, my photography, and I also teach partner dance. So just jonathanmarion.com, and you can find it all there. And I primarily work with people who are accomplished by external measures, but are looking to find what's going to be the most meaningful and fulfilling way forward.
Fantastic. And last but not least, besides us, of course, our kitchen goddess. Tell us about you.
I am Sasha. The website is I2tk.com. And Linktree /I2tk also. And that is that'll list everywhere else I am online. Mostly work with neurodivergent people who want to make a big dietary change. Usually they come to me, they already know what they want to do. They want to do the AIP, want to do the 5 map, and I just find them good food because, like I said, it's lawless. It's lawless in the food blogscape. People be doing anything.
And sometimes it tastes good, right? There's hope out there.
I mean,
Okay, so with all that, we have our stuff this week. We don't have any events going on this month. We're taking a break from our vendor stuff. Next month, it's every weekend, so be prepared for me to be complaining the entire time I'm on this. Our code for this month is Fresh Start. Straight up, just Fresh Start, all caps. Get you 10% off at the website. Check out our games next week. We got Monday and Wednesday games next week. Younger, am I missing anything? For teasing bits. We have a lot of really cool stuff coming in, and I can't wait for it to show up so I can take pretty pictures. But we now have a new most expensive item incoming, so be prepared for that. Let's see here. Yeah, Younger, I miss anything?
I think you just stole my thunder with
Oh,
that
did I?
last comment.
I'm sorry. Well, that's it for us with Adventure Mind. Have a wonderful time. We're gonna do an outro song, something silly. Go ahead and someone give me a number between 1 and 8.
7.
8.
I need a tiebreaker. It's tied 1-1.
42.
That's not an answer.
Oh, 2.
8.
We're going with 8. All right.
8.
You guys are getting a Power Rangers song. It'll be great. All right, with Adventure in Mind, have a wonderful time.
Time is breaking, the cracks run deep. The city stirs, it can't fall asleep. Monsters rising, worlds collide, but the Rangers roar with power inside. From the morphing grid they draw their might, with swords that tower they'll join the fight. Red, blue, green, yellow, phantom and purple, together they stand, their force unstoppable. Triumph, pace, Rangers, defenders of a fractured land. Titans rise at their command. Wolves and snakes, phantoms in fight, they charge ahead through the endless night. Through the city streets and shattered skies, the swords awaken as thunder cries. A wolf howls, a serpent strikes, their bond of courage fuels the fight. Onwards hope in the hands remains, through fractured time and shadowed plains. The mighty swords their strength will lend, together they'll fight till the very end. Rangers, defenders of a fractured land. Titans rising their command. Bound by courage through space and time, they light the way, their legacy shines. Shattered hope, but they'll endure. Rangers and Zords, their bond is pure.